And hey there, how there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. And we'll certainly do some of that today. Also, some stuff that's not so joyful and exciting, but we'll get into that a little bit as well. But we right now have a full house with us. Jared Anderson got us on mute right now as he's trying to figure out how to get into the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium bright and early, half an hour before the game. He'll be out there taking pictures today. I was originally scheduled to be out there to do the broadcast. I'll be following it on the internet now since I was told there will be no press in the press box yesterday. So kind of an interesting turn of events there. But everybody else in the house with us today, we got Daryl in here. Daryl has got free groceries out in your car if you live in Daryl's area. Go on in. She's just been to the store. She's left the doors unlocked. Help yourself to a variety of breakfast items. Have you got any good cereal in there, Daryl? Because I'm kind of wondering about that.
Had to bring the cereal in. That was the most prized possession. Got the eggs, the bread, and the milk.
A lot of French toast in your future, I can tell right now. Then, huh?
Well, it's gonna snow, so that's what you do, right?
I guess so. Either that or call carry out and say, "Oh, we'll be there in 2 hours."
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Appreciate that. That melodious voice you heard is Jeff McAdams, who's jumped in here. Who I haven't really had a chance to talk with Jeff too much this morning about anything. I'm assuming all is well in his world, and I know he's getting excited because softball plays on Sunday. And of course, we'll have some volleyball playing eventually, right?
Yeah, next week. Next week? Yeah, next week, 2 weeks. Something like that. I don't know. It's coming up. It's getting closer and closer. That's all that matters. So that's good. But
Twitter will inform us.
Yeah, there is other volleyball going out there. Yeah, next week we'll play at Lipscomb. Yes, okay. Yeah, I mean there is other volleyball going on out there in other conferences, which I'm kind of catching a little bit here and there, which is fun. But yeah, generally good. I was sharing with Case earlier. Couple of minutes ago, I got the words emergency change freeze dropped on me at work this week, so that's not fun. But anybody that works in IT probably just cringed. So yeah, but otherwise things going well here.
Good to hear out of that. An emergency change freeze. Does that have anything to do with the weather?
No, it doesn't. No, basically it means that we got into a situation that we need to be very, very careful about making changes in a certain part of our system so that we don't blow something up. So try to avoid outages. So
explosions and internet never go well together.
Figurative explosions here. Nothing real.
Jared has texted. Jared is with us. He's listening. He says we're playing music that we have to cover up certain language. Seems a little odd to be playing stuff like that out here today. You're gonna go for our kid, The Offspring, if that's familiar with anybody. That's the song currently out there. He's got us on mute, so we can't hear that. Whatever. Yeah, could be fine.
Love that song.
Well, yeah, we could listen to it because we're not limited by the FCC, but also we are limited by copyright laws.
They're not limited by FCC, but playing university. Probably don't want to do.
I guess it's out there. They're bleeping the parts,
Yeah.
All the 8-year-olds out there probably shouldn't hear. So. Interesting. Case Hoskins in the house with us as well as he is getting ready to. I don't know, Case. Tell me what you're getting ready to do today.
My nephew's birthday was yesterday, so we're gonna go over there a little bit and have some cake, I guess. Maybe go take a look at the future school site for my niece and nephew. My dog just jumped off of the chair next to me and startled me. Looking after Rossi this morning.
Well, if you need to take any food to the shindig, stop by Daryl's and just help yourself.
Yeah, just grab it out of the car.
Grab it out of the car, yeah.
Here, I brought some eggs and here's some milk.
No cereal, though. Couldn't get that.
No cereal. Sorry, guys. Plenty of bread, though. Help yourself on the bread. And so me just kind of following some of the the sporting events that have been going on this week, some of the changes that have been involved with stuff, and also trying to deal with the aspect of frozen vehicles. Yes.
Yeah.
Frozen vehicles, so much fun. Jared has just texted in again. He's more active than he is normally on the show here, so this is pretty cool. He just texted in and said, Teeter's happy we're covering again, and he's happy to be back in action. So there you go. I will be actually doing the post-game interview with Coach Teeter after the game is over via the magic of Microsoft Teams. That should be fun and interesting. Haven't heard yet from Nick on whether there's going to be any players involved or not. We'll have to find out about that. Yeah. But that's always fun.
Teeter is just delightfully Canadian.
Oh, he is, yeah.
It really is.
Thanks for covering us again. Thought you might not come back this year.
Right.
You've only covered Louisville lacrosse since the inception of the site, but
yeah.
Thanks for coming back.
He's such a great dude.
We found our way back down Florida Street somehow, and there I was. The stadium was still there. Although they wouldn't let Jared in the way he normally gets in. Whatever. It should be interesting if I go out and actually watch some of this. I think we play Syracuse next on later on this week over there because the first 4 games are at home. I'll kind of wait and see if I'm allowed to go in the forbidden zone or whether I got to enter like the rest of the commoners to the area. I don't know. But if they're not allowed to press in the press box, that speaks volumes to me. I'm probably not going to go until they do that, or if they ever do that. We'll see. But we've digressed enough here. Time to get into the scheduling and Twitter information coming up for you for this next week, so we'll turn that over to Case Hoskins.
Yeah, it's getting busy. I mentioned last week that it would be as the spring sports get started and the fall/spring sports get started because they couldn't get enough in the fall, so they had to steal some of spring sports' shine. But if we look at today, we discussed this a little bit right before the show started. I think Daryl had the right earlier. Softball versus UNC Greensboro and South Carolina were scheduled for today at the South Carolina tournament in Columbia, but that tournament was canceled, not for COVID-19, which is a welcome difference in reason for cancellations. Just unrelenting weather was going to prevent softball from being played down there. So
standard softball fare there.
Right, yeah. A reason, a legitimate reason to have not played softball. It's nice. Or legitimate regular reason, I should say. Right. So they have actually rerouted. They're going to be playing a doubleheader against Alabama tomorrow at 1 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. Sending them like lambs to the slaughter to open the season.
Brutal opening.
Yeah. The one that is going on today, like we mentioned, Lacrosse getting set to host Florida here in about 22 minutes as we record. Florida coming in as the 7th-ranked team. It's going to be a tough fight. Scott Teeter's going to get to see right out of the gate what his team has this season and what they can expect. Getting started tomorrow, women's golf is hosting the Moon Golf Invitational right down the road from my house. Actually, that's not true. It's at the Durham Country Club, which is weird because later in the week it says hosted by Louisville. So we are hosting the Moon Golf Invitational, not in Louisville.
They do that every year once or twice. It is odd.
So this used to be a Florida event, if I remember correctly. The Moon did.
It's probably in Florida. It's just hosted by us. Yeah. Which makes no sense to me, because what's the point of having a home team in golf? It is in Melbourne, Florida, is where Durham is.
Rowing does that too, as some of the regattas, but yeah.
Well, I'd hate to see them try to play out of Valhalla or the Louisville Golf Club in this weather.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be fun and exciting. They'd have to use a black ball, I think. They might be playing snow golf later in the week.
Yeah.
Have a blowtorch when you get to the green.
But that Moon Golf Invitational is from Sunday through Tuesday. Men's golf also in action Sunday through Tuesday at the All-American Intercollegiate Humble. Sorry, that's in Humble, Texas at the Golf Club of Houston. You would really think that by now we could start getting some more clear definitions of the schedule events for golf. Or at least that at this point, after 3 or 4 years of doing the show, I'd be able to figure out how to read them. But here we are. Women's tennis is taking on UT Martin tomorrow at 11 a.m. That one's at the Bass Red Center. Softball was scheduled to play South Carolina again, but like we mentioned, that tournament canceled, and they're playing Alabama. Women's basketball at Syracuse, postponed. We will get into that at length later, I assume. Men's tennis taking on Kentucky for the first 2021 Battle of the Bluegrass at 3 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, we discussed our golf. Swimming is taking on the ACC Championships. They're taking them on. They're going to fight the whole tournament. That's in swimming versus ACC Championships. Got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, schedule. That's in Greensboro, North Carolina. Is scheduled through Saturday. That's only the women's side. The men's side, I believe, is the following week. Track hosting the Cardinal Invitational starting on Wednesday, so that'll be chilly and probably snowy. That one gets underway at noon. Men's basketball scheduled to end their pause, their second COVID-19 pause, against Syracuse in the Yum Center on Wednesday at 6:30. We will see if that happens. Softball begins an ACC pod weekend in Raleigh, North Carolina on Thursday. They'll be taking on Virginia to open that. Lacrosse hosts Colorado, not Syracuse, Paul, on Thursday at 3 p.m.
Colorado, yes, Colorado, that's right.
And then softball will play again. They'll be taking on NC State at 4 p.m. on Thursday. Women's basketball is scheduled to take on Pittsburgh. Obviously, we don't know what the extent of their second COVID-19 pause will bring, whether they'll play that game. Rowing, heading down to Dallas to participate in an event hosted by SMU. Starts on Friday. Softball plays NC State again at 11 a.m. on Friday. Women's tennis playing Syracuse at 12 p.m. on Friday. Softball taking on NC State again at 1:30. Are they really scheduled to play NC State 3 times in 2 days? That seems unreasonable. But maybe they are. Well, actually, I guess not. They play 3-game sets in softball. And baseball will host Bellarmine on Friday at 3 p.m. Men's tennis at NC State on Friday at 4. And that was a busy week. Not even going to get into Saturday, but that is when volleyball plays their next match against Lipscomb.
That's softball against NC State. That may be that may actually be considered non-conference. Because I think for conference matchups, aren't they doing 4-game series?
So I just pulled up the schedule. They're playing Virginia on Thursday, then 3 games against NC State on Thursday and Friday, and then a game against Virginia on Saturday and a game against Virginia on Sunday.
ACC pod weekend, so I guess it is probably conference. Okay, but like if you look later in the schedule, you've got like 4 straight games against Clemson, 4 against Virginia Tech, 4 against Pitt. They're doing generally 4-game series this year.
Sets, yeah. And it's a weird schedule.
Yeah, it's a weird schedule. It's all COVID stuff that's triggering it, of course, but
yeah. Jared mentions all other series this year: 4 games, 2 regular length games, and then a pair of doubleheaders on the Saturdays. Typically, that's how they've got it scheduled. Which I assume those will be 5-inning doubleheaders, probably, or do you think they'll play full games?
Usually, when they do doubleheaders, they'll do full 7. Yeah, I don't know if they've made any changes for that this year because of COVID, but typical doubleheaders in softball, man, it's the full 7. Yeah,
so that gets us through scheduling. It's going to be like that for the next couple of weeks, folks. People strap in when we get to scheduling on Twitter because there are a lot of games on these schedules. Moving over to Twitter, iTweet is at best case scenario. It's BST case scenario. Daryl is at DarylFaust4. Paul is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. And Jared is at Mr. Anderson Jared. Figured I'd blitz through Twitter this week since scheduling took so long. And we've got so much to talk about as we move into the rest of the show.
And very well done on both of those cases. As you are right there, we do have a lot to cover today with you. And I guess we might as well go ahead and Start with the bad news here concerning women's basketball. We did find out, and I think I can't remember which one of you broke it last night in our group chat. I think it was around 6 o'clock or so. But the Cardinals will not be playing Syracuse this week. A game that was scheduled to take place up in Syracuse because of COVID protocol. Someone on the team or within the organization, as they like to say, has tested positive, and it's disappointing. Second time we've been through it. Daryl, what was your reaction when you first saw that?
Just what we've been saying this whole time, like, treat every game like it's the last, and you do the Friday morning write-up talking about Thursday's night's game, and then by I don't know, the afternoon, it's, hey, we're not playing on Sunday. It's just, I have this little chalkboard in my kitchen that every opponent, it says go Cards, beat whoever, and I erase the opponent, and now it's got COVID right there. Just beat COVID. And it's frustrating. The team was on a roll and, trying to vouch for the number one seeding in the postseason, and here we are having to pause again. It just sucks, and I was really looking forward to a game tomorrow, especially with the men off too.
Yeah, I think we all wanted to kind of see how this second round against Syracuse would go, especially on the road up there. But now we wait and see. And in case you were talking a little bit about this in your article today, that first COVID pause for us was rather lengthy. What are we looking at as far as a potential downtime for the Cards?
It's hard to tell. Holidays certainly didn't help the length of the first pause. I think if there had been not Christmas and New Year's right there in that middle week, Louisville might have been able to get back into action earlier. The men's team, their first pause was 18 days, I believe. Their second pause is going to be at least 16 days. Women's basketball, like I mentioned, was almost a month. And it's not encouraging based on the way that they performed coming out of that first pause, both teams, both of Louisville's teams. And it's tough to say whether they're going to play another regular season game. There's only 15 days left in the regular season. So if you look at the 16-day pause that the men's team had and the 19-day pause previously, and the length of Louisville women's, with the currently final scheduled game of the regular season being on the 28th against Notre Dame, that would be 16 days from Louisville's announced pause. There's not a date set on Louisville's schedule for when the ACC tournament is scheduled to start. I'm sure that date is set by the ACC, but there may be a few days to try and push one of those games in the first week of March. But if not, then Louisville's going to end their regular season, I think, at 19-1. Because I don't think they're going to play on Thursday against Pittsburgh. And then, it's just a crapshoot. It's up in the air about who has tested positive, what the extent of that is, what the extent of the quarantining and contact tracing is. Obviously, if you're looking at the number of players that would have to be quarantined to make it so that they can't play tomorrow against Syracuse, based on contact tracing, would imply that there's a chance that some of those players could also get sick. So we just don't know. There's just too much uncertainty, I would say, to try and prognosticate what the length of this pause will be.
Yeah, a couple of points on that. I mean, I think across the NCAA, most of these pauses for these programs have been close to 2 weeks at least, or more, right? I think 2 weeks has been about the minimum we've seen for most of them. So that would pretty much suggest that our regular season is done, like Case was saying there. And yeah, it's interesting. I think you bring up that there's no ACC tournament listed on the schedule. I'm not sure we're going to have an ACC tournament. I think that's still a bit up in the air as even a thing, right? I mean, like,
yeah, I guess
talking
technically
like NCAA might say we're not doing tournaments. I think they kind of deferred on that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Mike Rutherford and Jeff Greer talked about this on his podcast, Jeff Greer's podcast earlier this week about the concept of conference tournaments on the men's basketball side, and how a lot of teams were kind of implicitly threatening that they might decide to skip them, and then a bunch of conferences put out statements saying, hey, don't forget you're contractually obligated to play in this or we won't give you any money. So we talked about how the NCAA lost almost $1 billion last year by not having the NCAA tournament. And we can't pretend that the conferences didn't lose money by not finishing their tournaments, and the financial impact that would have on them with all of their TV rights deals to not have a tournament this year. So I think they're all going to try to have it. I think we've seen some conferences indicate for the conferences that play typically at school sites for maybe the opening rounds. I think that's not going to happen. I think almost every conference is going to try and bubble up for their tournament. So I think the ACC will try to do that. It's just a matter of they're probably trying to figure out when exactly the men's tournament will be, and they don't want the men's and women's teams to be there at the same time.
Well, it was a case of last year, too, if you'll remember. One of the situations was the women had their tournament, and then there was a few days break, and then the men came in for their tournament, and that's when things started to get shut down. We had people that were down there in Greensboro, and all of a sudden the reports started coming out, hey, play has stopped. If you take a look at what the ACC is proposing right now, okay, traditionally on the first day of the ACC tournament, there are 3 games. I like to call those the kind of play-in games to see if you can get to the next round. All right. Right now, they only have 1 game potentially scheduled for that Wednesday. 1 game. Because
two teams
you have
down.
a couple teams. That's right.
Yeah.
As Jeff pointed out, there are a couple teams down. So then you go into the next day, or the second round, as they call it, on Thursday. You get to your quarterfinals on Friday, semifinals on Saturday, and then Sunday, of course, the championship. So do you really, I mean, okay, you're gonna limit the attendance on this almost certainly.
Yeah.
All right. Media attendance will be pretty much non-existent. I'm not going down for it this year, which will be the first time I've missed one in, gosh, probably 10 years, a long time. But I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to go down for it because, quite honestly, I'm gonna kind of agree with everybody else here's thinking. Although I haven't really checked with Daryl on this yet, I'd be fine if we skip the conference tournament, just like Jared said. Why take another COVID risk, especially when you're just coming out of one? And I think everybody would rather go to the NCAA tournament instead of playing in a conference tournament. If you had to choose between the two, the question is now, how do you do your seedings on the NCAA tournament if you've got no conference tournaments to go off of?
See, I think you just go off the regular season, pretend that last week or so is the tournament, except if you lose, you're not out. I know that you're not going to be facing the best in the conference, depending on everyone's schedule, but in a year when you can just be happy to get games and you want to give the trophy to somebody who deserves it, instead of like last year when they just, at least on the men's side, they just handed it to Florida State and they didn't even play. I don't want that to happen. So as far as getting quality games and having a trophy mean something, I think that's probably the best route to go.
I can't argue with that logic one bit. I can't argue with it. Of course, the conference tournament in years past has been a money maker for the ACC. Maybe not this year.
True.
Let's go ahead and.
Yeah,
and the fan pitch is always fun. But go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, and I've said in the past, I would love to see the ACC play a tournament for volleyball, which they don't routinely, right? But that's in normal times, right? In the middle of a pandemic, yeah, okay, let's bag the tournament. Let's put another couple of regular season games in there. and where you're not playing back to back to back, and extra maybe can cut down on travel a little bit, and go into the NCAA and hopefully bubble up a bit there. I think it's the wiser decision given the situation of the world right now. I'll miss the tournament. The tournaments are a lot of fun. They're always a lot of fun to watch. I'll miss them, but I do kind of think it's the wiser decision to make.
I think I'm reminded of something that Holly Anderson, formerly of Everyday Should Be Saturday, now with the Moon Crew. If you're an online college football type person, you would maybe know what that means. But what she has said about the NFL, MLB, the NCAA, all of that to this point. What's the reason that all these leagues are playing? How have they been able to do it through COVID and everything? And her statement's pretty simple and pretty true. They wanted to, so they did. And that's what it's going to be for conference tournaments. If they want to, they're going to do them. Come hell or high water, whatever that takes or means, they're going to do it. Same thing with the NCAA tournament. The idea that the NCAA tournament won't just wait until 2 weeks after the conference tournaments is baffling. Just make sure that nobody's going to get sick from the conference tournaments and have to forfeit games, because that's what the NCAA tournament's going to do. They're just going to make teams forfeit games.
True.
But the idea that they won't just wait is baffling. But yeah, if the conferences want to do the tournaments, they're going to do them, and if they don't want to do them, they're not going to do them. I think it's pretty simple from that perspective.
Some time will tell. Certainly, our thoughts right now are with the UofL women's basketball team, hoping that the testing, maybe it was a fluke. Hopefully, maybe there's not a positive case on staff. If there is, certainly let's hope that it's not anything that's very serious. Although saying very serious in COVID, I know, can be touching, but let's hope that the Cards can get it turned around and maybe get a couple games left in the regular season before they have to, see that whole season pass by them while they're on pause. But hey, one way to look at it right now, we're on top, and nobody's going to change that. Nobody can, say, hey, you get 3 losses. No, we didn't play. It didn't happen.
We just protected our lead.
That's right. It was a Wall's gambit and a great option, Coach.
Yeah, not the way I wanted to do it, but
exactly. That's for sure. But so with all that in mind, certainly our thoughts are with the players. Our prayers are with the players, hoping that none of them are seriously ill, along with the staff and, of course, the coaches and those that take part in the daily operations. Also, our thoughts go out to Nick Evans. He's also involved in that kind of quarantine issue as well. So that's the affable sports information director of Louisville women's basketball and lacrosse is watching things from afar right now as he undergoes his protocols as well. So yeah, it's everywhere, guys. Be careful. Let's get into what has happened in terms of Louisville women's basketball. We certainly started this week on a fine note with the Cards bringing Notre Dame, the Irish, into the KFC Center. The Cards bringing in an Irish team that was 8-7, I think, at the time on the season when they came in. A team that has talent galore, but just hasn't been able to put it all together in a form that's made them a successful team in conference standings. First-year coach Blues, who knows? It's hard to say. All we know is that Louisville got a fight from the Irish, no doubt about that, as they played the Cards very, very close. The Louisville squad taking the 71-65 win over Notre Dame, but I wasn't too comfortable in that second half. I don't know about you kids, but Daryl, that was a scary game, huh?
Gosh, we just love to make it a game with Notre Dame, don't we? Even if they are a crappy team. Gosh,
For sure.
I mean, that was the one that Olivia Cochran had come back, and then Balagoon as well. So, just getting them back into the motions, and Olivia off an injury. And I mean, we saw an Elizabeth Balagoon that looked like she had a fire lit under her. It was good to see her back, and it looked like she got this competitive edge when she went to train with the national team. So, I mean, of course, you got to get Dana Evans the credit in that one. You know, the last few minutes, she put the team on her back, as she usually does, and, you know, had a 27-point performance. I just can't believe, like, every time I see Dana Evans' final stat line, I'm just like, how? When did she go from, you know, just having like 10 points to 27 all of a sudden? But it's just like the norm for her. And of course, she's usually clutch at the free throw line as well. And I think it was one of the commentators had to jinx her in that one, or she would have been perfect. Like 50 in a row or something like that. But, you know, just another good win to get under our belt. And, yeah, just, you know, good to get wins over Notre Dame.
Well, a game that we saw Dana Evans. I know it sounds like a broken record, Jeff. Dana Evans had a great game against Notre Dame. Dana Evans has a great game every game. And in a preview of what was going to happen on senior night, maybe, Keanu Smith as well and Elizabeth Balogun. Those three were fantastic for the Cards. But I think the key factor on this is Olivia Cochran didn't score much, but had 11 rebounds in this contest to lead everybody on both teams. Your thoughts on the contest, buddy?
Yeah, you know, 11 rebounds for Cochran. 9 of those were defensive, so that limits second chance points for Notre Dame, which makes a big difference, obviously. Again, yeah, obviously Dana Evans. I want to echo something that Daryl said, that you know, I think in a number of games this season I've been watching them, and it's been like, okay, Dana Evans is, yeah, she's having an okay game, I guess. And then you look at the stat sheet and you're like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, that's better than just okay. Right. Yeah. It's like, when did all those scoring happen? It does. You're watching and sometimes you don't you feel like she's not playing as well as she normally does, and then you look at the stat sheet and it's like, oh, well, okay, yeah, I guess she did. All right. But yeah, Elizabeth Balogun looked great coming back from working with the Nigerian team. You know, it's such a great opportunity that always is to do stuff like that. I'm glad she's getting those opportunities as well. Those are your three in triple digits: Keanu Smith, Dana Evans, Elizabeth Balogun on scoring. No double doubles here. But you know, it's good solid game, good solid first half. Intriguingly, I loved this, that somebody pointed out that the first quarter and second quarter scores were the same, 21-17 in both quarters for UofL. So, you know, and then you look at third and fourth quarters, which third one was a tie, and fourth quarter actually Notre Dame won. So, yeah, it's a good first half. You got to learn to keep the foot on the accelerator.
Definitely needed to do that, and the Cards kind of did drop off a little bit there in the second half, especially the fourth quarter, but still actually won the second half rebounding battle, and also tied them in total rebounds, which I would have not predicted before this would happen, as a 41 for each team case.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, led by Olivia Cochran, like we mentioned, who was ineffective on offense, but was clearing out tons of boards. She got 9 defensive rebounds, really limiting Notre Dame's ability to get second chance points. They finished with just 2 for the entire game, so very important to win on the second chance points battle. Just 4-2, but you know, that's 2 extra points there. What really stood out to me was Louisville just unable to put Notre Dame away, which, you know, we've seen in the past. If Louisville doesn't beat them by 30, then it's going to be close. Louisville picked up an 11-point lead a couple of times, just couldn't keep Notre Dame down. They went up by 8 with about 5 minutes left, and then just forgot how to play offense. I mentioned before the show started that that Apple is still having trouble with its SMS group messages. On Sunday, I was working on building a new vanity for our bathroom, sitting in the basement watching this on my iPad, and when Louisville cleared the rebound with Keanu Smith and was carrying it upfield with up the court with about a minute left, I told Lindsay, I said, could really go for a Dana Evans dagger 3 here, and she obliged, which I appreciated, and that really kind of put it away. Louisville was not going to give up a 4-point lead with a minute left because it's not in their DNA to do that this season for sure. Dana Evans, like we mentioned, scoring the last 5 points of the game to put this one kind of a little bit further out of reach, but it was tough. It was a good game for Louisville to have and to experience in a way that they are, up against the ropes against a conference rival like this and able to hang on tight down the stretch without making us worry too much, not needing a final basket like they did against Wake Forest, but able to just say, okay, that's enough of this. The game is over now. So encouraging for whenever they're able to get back in action to have another mentally tough win here.
The Irish putting 4 players in double figures, each one of them with 10 points. And a player who surprised me, I don't know what you all thought about this, what you all saw on this, is a player that came in and actually off the bench, Olivia Miles, had 10 points in 14 minutes. She had a streak of like 6 points in a row and was a ball player that I did not put in any of my pregame scouts. Any thoughts on her at all? And she came in and basically had a great game against the Cards, Daryl.
I feel like the last couple games that our opponents have had a player come off the bench and kind of had a night for themselves. Miles is 5 of 8. She didn't land one from behind 3, but I feel like the scouting report for the opponents, they come in and they know who the starting roster is, and the starting roster isn't really getting the chances, so that gives the bench players the opportunity. And sure, if they have a night and still lose the game, let them have it.
Hey, I will break in here just real quickly on this. Lacrosse has started out at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium, and preseason honorable mention All-American Carolyn Blaylock has gotten the scoring started for Louisville with a 1-0 lead over Florida. Carolyn Blaylock, certainly one of those notorious Blaylock sisters, has the Cards on the board. Very good.
I wasn't giving live updates, but that was why I was a little bit distracted while I was talking. But it did look like Florida was going to score in the first 15 seconds of that game.
Oh yeah, I saw. I saw the very end of that because ESPN and I are having difficulties on deciding who my cable provider is. I think they understand now. Okay, very good. But so this is a win. It's a good win. As Jeff Walls loves to say, ACC wins are great wins. This was an ACC win. I think some of the fans maybe were a little bit perturbed that Notre Dame could get as close as they did in this contest. Certainly, they got very good play out of some very, very good players they've got on their team. But the Cards get out of this with a W. Takes them to an 18-1 record now as they move into a Thursday night contest on Dana night, on homecoming night, not homecoming night, but senior night. And boy, what an emotional night that was. That was fantastic, starting with the very beginning when they did the video wall, Daryl, and everything went well. And then a little girl came out and sang the national anthem on tape. And
that's
been
getting some attention, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She came out and nailed it, She came out and nailed it. And Coach Walls even talked about it a little bit in the post-game, Daryl, where he was saying, we had a trial run that Lucy and Lola put on a basketball game for us. And what they did is they took us through the whole thing. They had a scanner from the kitchen. I don't know what he scans in the kitchen with. That they used to check mom and dad into the arena with.
Aww.
And then they sat down and they were playing on the Papa Shot that is in the Walls household. But before the contest started between the two, Lucy did sing the national anthem for mom and dad and Lola. So she did have some practice at it. But wonderfully done, and Dana was just fantastic the whole time during it. They, as you all well know, brought her parents out, so the roses were distributed and everything else. Daryl, this was a nice win for Louisville. I didn't think that we'd beat Georgia Tech that badly. How about you?
First comment on the national anthem. Like, I'm touched on it in the article, but just think about 4 years ago when the team was going to the Final Four. They just beat Oregon State and Lexington, and these two little girls are just running around on the court in confetti, and it's, they're really young then, and I put a picture in of how old they were at that game, but they're really young, and like they're starting to come into older age, and they remember these players, and they spent 4 years with Dana, and then they have, it's had to have been Lucy's idea to want to do the anthem. It's just so sweet. It makes me so happy to think about her wanting to do something special for this player she's spent the last 4 years around, and who's gotten the confetti to come down for her so she can run around and do it in it and do snow angels in it, and it's just so cute and sweet. And yeah. I mean, how is that not a recruiting tool? I mean, you come here and you're like, well, these are my daughters, you're going to spend the next 4 years with them too, so it brings all these cute, sweet emotions up, and relationships that you're going to have for the rest of your life. And when Dana Evans is 50 years old, Lucy will be 35 or whatever, and they'll still be buddies, I bet. It's just so cute. But yeah, I did not expect that performance from the Cards against GT. I thought it was going to be one of those I thought it was going to be like the Notre Dame score, just going to be a close one the whole way. I know we knew that they were like a three-point shooting team coming into it. I felt like they didn't really get that going as well as they could have. I mean, they still had a good night. They still scored 70 points, which was about their average, but the Cards able to put 15 more on them. Didn't see that one coming, but it was a pretty good game. Just nothing spectacular, but a good win for Dana Evans to go out on. So I enjoyed it.
I think there were two key points in this game for the Cards. One of them being at the end of the first half when Louisville was able to go on a nice little 6-0 run to separate themselves a bit from the Texters. The Texters actually led us at the end of one quarter, 20-19. Louisville used a 17-8 second quarter advantage, including that 6-0 run at the end, to go up at halftime and take the lead. And then the third quarter belonged to Kiana Smith, Mr. Jeff. What about her performance? The first 13 Louisville points of the second half.
Yeah, she just went on a rampage. She had a great second half, and you can't praise her enough. She was back in the starting lineup, which has been kind of an off again, on again thing. She played 38 minutes, 21 points overall, most of those in the second half. Dana's not the only one that sometimes says climb aboard. Sometimes it's somebody else steps up. Of course, I mean, Dana also said climb aboard in this game, as she usually does. But it's nice when you get to distribute that, and four players in double figures is good. Kiana played great, and 5 assists while she's at it, which is pretty good too. So
it's certainly a good performance by Kiana there, who also got to do the post-game Microsoft Teams interview stuff, and was very gracious and was very thankful to be able to be out there. Updating stuff for you. Florida just tied it up with Louisville Lacrosse at 1-1, so we're back to 0 again on that. In case when you take a look at this game against Georgia Tech, we all anticipated the Tech squad coming in here and giving Louisville fits. They were actually a team that was third in the rankings coming into this. Louisville out-rebounded them 37-34, and that surprised me very much.
Yeah, it was another good game for Liz Dixon getting to start. She went 13 and 9, very nearly a double-double. And then Olivia Cochran finding her place a little bit more on offense in this one versus the Notre Dame game. She picked up 13 points and added 6 rebounds. From the guard spot, Mikasa Robinson made the most of her start. She picked up 7 rebounds. She did have that weird technical, which that was such a weird situation. Which is not what you're going for. You're not looking for a player to come in and battle in that way. It was really kind of unnecessary, the way that she inserted herself into the situation, but ultimately not very important because it was double technical, so it is what it is. But yeah, winning that rebounding battle, you got a lot of help from the guard spot. Not just Mikasa Robinson, 7, but 5 from Van Lith, 3 from Kiana Smith, and then 4 from Dana is one of her higher numbers on the season. And then most of those coming on the defensive end, just clearing out the boards, making sure that Georgia Tech's not getting an opportunity for second chance points. They did finish with 14, which was a lot on 10 offensive rebounds, but could have been more had Louisville not done more to stop them on the offensive end. So a good job offensively and defensively on the rebounding side. And Louisville just runs away with this one in the second quarter and doesn't look back.
Certainly they did indeed, and did not have a fourth quarter collapse. In fact, they won the fourth quarter 25-19 against Georgia Tech. Kind of interesting to me, is the way I saw it. We only played 7 people basically in this game. Okay, we didn't see anything but Kono for the final minute, Alana Smith for the final minute, Marissa Russell, and they all basically 3 came in, so the crowd could give a little applause and reference to Dana Evans and Kiana Smith and Liz Dixon's fine performances. Okay, did that surprise you at all, Daryl? Just playing 7 players in this thing?
A little bit. I was wondering towards the end of the game where Noriko was, but like the players that were on the floor, they were doing their job. I think the difference was the free throws. So it shows you how much we needed those. But yeah, I wouldn't have felt comfortable if Noriko would have ended up on the floor. Honestly, her defense right now is a little bit of a liability, and I think Coach, played the players that were going to get his team a win. And I don't know if you all saw the pictures from the pregame ceremonies with Dana, and like how the entire team was just surrounding her and giving her moment. You can see how much they lean on her and they trust her, and she's literally the leader of this team. And she's so small. It's so adorable because she's the smallest, one of the smallest people out there, and they're all like towering over her. But Kiana said it after the game that she's been in the big game. She's been to a Final Four, and we rely on her to take us to a national championship. And they were going to get that win for her. And it's somebody, I can't remember who said it already in the show today, but you could see it. This team is not going to lose a lead in the last minute of a game. It's like a switch flips every time it gets kind of close towards the end, like either in Dana's body presence, like I could see it in her motions, or everybody else around her. It's like a sense of calm comes over everybody, and a sense of we're better than this team, and we're better than almost all the teams out there, and we can do this, and they do. And it's just so much fun to watch. And I also like the fact that Olivia Cochran's coming off the bench now, and giving Liz Dixon the start. But I think that wasn't the case the other night. But oh yeah, she did start. But it's I feel like Coach Walls is figuring out his team. He's figuring out how he can get the best out of everybody, and it's really, I see the difference. It's making sense to me.
I think that she's going to continue to be that. Whatever else we see from her this year, and it was so nice to see her do the traditional things that seniors do at the end of the game, She kissed Louis the Cardinal bird at half court, and she ran around the court and waved to everybody like the seniors traditionally do.
I wish there was 20,000 in the stadium for her.
But like those are Louisville senior traditions, right? That's not, that's not, or at least not done the same way by a lot of other schools. That's something that some of that goes back to Angel McCautry. I think some of it goes back to Jazz Jones, and maybe some others who have kind of instituted those things. And the other players, it's been, kind of an emotional moment, and the other players have picked it up. And I love it. I love the fact that we've gotten these traditions developing out of it that are not necessarily basketball wide, that they're a little bit specific to this program and this team. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
There's been some discussion, and I'll let you all kind of bat this around a little bit about what's happened to Haley the last couple of games. Although she's seen significant minutes, the scoring has dropped off of only 4 points in each of the last 2 games. Has she kind of hit that freshman wall? I don't know if I want to call it that. Certainly it wasn't the Haley we saw earlier in the year. Is there anything going on with Haley Case? I don't know. You tell me.
I think the ACC schedule is brutal. College basketball is brutal compared to high school. Even if you're playing in the AAU circuit, playing really good teams, it's just another level. And we're getting late into the season. Her legs are kind of falling out from under her a little bit. She's not getting those opportunities so much. She only took 4 shots in her 26 minutes on Thursday night. But, teams kind of figure her out to a certain extent. She's not as surprising. And like I said, it's a brutal schedule. She's just kind of fallen off a little bit. Not talent-wise, obviously, but just, it's a long season. It's a tough schedule. It wears on you, especially for freshmen. So I wouldn't call it like a freshman wall to like the extent of she's not going to get better this year. But just that, there is a physical wall there for someone that's competing at such a high level and being introduced to this new system and new style of play. We saw it briefly for Olivia Cochran. Injury might have had something to do with that, but she was down for a couple of games, and then she kind of found her stride again. So hopefully, with this pause, if Haley Van Lith isn't involved in it from a physical illness wise, she'll be able to take this opportunity to gather herself and rebuild her strength and get back on track. But I think that NCAA tournament, Haley Van Lith is going to be back to that level that we were seeing earlier in the year.
I'm certainly hoping that you're correct on that. I feel the same way as well. But, Jeff, sometimes that happens to players. Remember, Erica Carter, who turned out to be such a great player for Louisville, was so bad as a freshman. Not trying to disparage on her or anything, but Jeff Wall said I would gladly paid her airplane ticket to send her back to California at the end of her freshman year.
Yeah.
But she said, no, I think I'm going to stay and look what happened to her.
Yeah, her freshman year was pretty rough. She was learning to play at this level and at this pace and really needed to improve her shot a lot, which to her credit, she did a lot of work on that and became a very good shooter. Her freshman shooting was terrible, to be honest. I look at Haley Van Lith. I say, okay, you've got this true freshman coming in here, this high school phenom that's getting all the attention, but not a lot of true scouting film available to her, on her. So she comes in and she's a very talented player. She's an extremely talented player. She doesn't have the eyes of the team on her. She's not needing to be in that leadership role. She's not needing to be the one that steps up. We talk about Dana doing that all the time. And then you also have these other teams out there going, who is this HVL? We don't know that much about how she plays. We don't know that much about her tendencies. And then as you get later in the season, there's this buildup of film on her that They can look at her. They can look at what she's doing. Okay, she's gonna come. She's not afraid of making contact. She wants to go to her left hand because she's a lefty. Understand that, but she's not, restricted to that. Good ball handling, and they start to learn how to guard her a little better. And that's going to have an impact. And as a freshman, she probably doesn't have the skills quite to be able to adapt to those things, to be able to read what the other team is doing and adjust for it. That'll come. I mean, like I said, she's a phenomenally talented player. I'm not taking anything away from her here. This is just what freshmen go through, right? To learn the game at this level, beyond just having the skills. So the raw skills. So yeah, I'm not worried about it. I don't think there's anything wrong there. I think other teams have figured out how to play against her a little bit now that they have some film to work with. She's going to be great. She's a very talented player, and she's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
I think the circumstance has something to do with that as well. If she was on a team that didn't have Dana Evans, I don't think we would have seen the fall off, because she would have been in a position where she needed to evolve much more quickly, and get past that figured out stage. And even if Kiana Smith hadn't come on in the way that she has in this latter half of the season, and Haley Van Lith was being asked to do more, then she would be doing more. She's in a very good position to where she can sit back, she can kind of try to recover physically, and she can understand how her teammates are able to beat double teams or beat the scouting report, and learn that without having to press and get to the point where she's getting frustrated. And maybe she is getting frustrated, but she's not showing it, with still putting in solid effort in her time on the floor.
So we certainly hope that she'll be able to get out and do some things here soon for the basketball cards. Time once again kind of catching up on us here a little bit, but I do want to make mention of a couple other things that are taking place. Louisville right now trailing Florida 3-2 in lacrosse out there as they're about halfway through the first half. A back and forth battle where the Card scored, Florida scored, Card scored, Florida scored, and Florida just scored again. So it's 3-2.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just boom, 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 boom. But of course, in lacrosse, you're going to get a lot of goals. Yep, so that's the way that usually works out. Softball. Let's talk just a little bit about softball. Change of plans for the softball Cards. No longer headed to Columbia, South Carolina. Headed down to play Bama. Bama, the softball power from SEC Conference. Daryl, this is kind of a change in schedule, and I don't know if it's a change I'm really excited about, because Bama comes in and they're a big team, aren't they?
True that, but I will take the non-COVID related schedule change, however, because at least that means we could still play after this. But I just need something spring related to get me out of this icy funk here in Louisville. I'm excited.
No doubt.
Too bad it's not on TV, though. I think they just got the Twitter updates, which is, all you can do right now with the last second changing. But it should be a good test. I mean, going down to Bama is not going to be an easy task, especially when you switch your opponent in the last 2 days. So I'll be excited to follow this one. I just need some spring sports in my life.
I say you're going to get a change from ice. We're going to have a lot of snow in a couple of days. Right.
Hate it.
You and me both. I'm with you.
And I'll make 3. We're coming into this thing, though. Holly April is proud of her pitching this year, and she certainly has some very good pitching. With Taylor Roby coming back, now we did find out that one of the Cardinals pitchers from last year won't be pitching for us because of an arm injury right now, and that's Chardonnay Harris. But they also have a very, very good transfer in Jen Leonard, and 2 very good freshmen coming on. The pitching, I think Jeff is going to get a test down there tomorrow in that doubleheader, eh?
Yeah, I think everything down there is going to get a test down there. Alabama's the number 8 team in the country. SEC is an absolute juggernaut, top to bottom in softball. Like the ACC is in lacrosse and field hockey, the SEC is in softball. They are basically top to bottom in the conference, you're going to have really, really good teams there. Yes, including Kentucky. They're also a pretty darn good softball team as well. This is going to be a test. This is going to be an immediate, real, and large test right out of the bat as a season opener. It's going to be interesting. Alabama is ranked 8th, but they are the 3rd highest ranked team overall. You got Florida in 7th, LSU in 5th. For SEC teams, that is. I also have some Pac-12 teams up there as well. So, the top ranked schools are basically Pac-12 and SEC.
All in the warm areas.
And Oklahoma. Don't forget.
Oklahoma.
Don't forget the team that can win 29-0.
Yeah, fair point.
Struggled against a directional school from Texas, right? Because they struggled big time. They only put up 28 home runs or something like that.
Yeah.
In one game. That's not a weekend series, folks.
Yeah.
That's in one game.
13 home runs, breaking the previous single game record of 10, which was probably set in a 7-inning game. This one went just 5, and they hit 11 in 4 innings. And they won 29-0 against UT San Antonio. Brutal for them.
Yeah.
Alabama, I mean, on the other side, Alabama opened their season with a 10-0 win over Alabama State, in which they threw a combined no-hitter. So they're no slouches either.
Yeah, certainly will be a test for the Cardinal hitters against a very, very proven and good Bama squad. So hopefully they'll do well down there in that. And, gang, it's hard to believe it. We've run right up on the noon hour here. So a lot of things covered today. Certainly a very good show. We'll get into. I'm not going to do a prediction on a game. I'm not going to get your guesses on a game because honestly, we don't know when we're going to be able to.
Yeah.
Guess on another game. Daryl, I know you'd stay with your standard score anyway, so it doesn't matter. I just Daryl says 91-65.
Yeah, I don't care who it is.
It doesn't matter. We're going to score 91. It's been stone. Yeah. Let's go ahead and start on that with some final thoughts then. We'll let you go ahead and start it out. That must be Scott Teeter telling me the score.
Did you say me?
Yeah, go ahead and start us out, Daryl, with final thoughts, sir.
Are we doing softball? Final thoughts, sorry. Well, just happy Valentine's weekend to everybody. Hope you stay safe out there. This ice sucks. Having to walk around on it, I just presume not to, so stay in the house if you can. Yeah. And we'll hopefully have some games to talk about sometime soon. It's got softball. Hopefully that goes well and it's not ugly.
I got to agree with you there. Let's hope that we can be competitive in that for sure. Jeff, what's going on with you? Final thoughts?
I just want to mention, I'm going to sneak in too real quick. Tennis played yesterday against Vanderbilt, a very good Vanderbilt team, 14th, 15th in the country, I think. Only scored 2 points in the overall match. Did get the doubles point. They won the doubles point in every match they played. But the probably newsworthy point of this one is that it was a 4-hour long match with one of the matchups being like 7-6 with a tiebreaker and that, and two of them went I think 7-6 and like 7-5 or 6-5 or 7-5, something like that. I mean, it was an epically long match. So lost, but good effort by the Cardinals. They're against a really good team. And my second one, I want to sneak in really quick. I'm going this afternoon to watch my niece play her in her high school basketball game for the Brown School. So, I get to go watch basketball in person. It's going to be fun.
Did they play, does the Brown School play co-ed basketball?
No, don't think so.
Okay. They played co-ed soccer when I was in high school, so.
Yeah. We're not talking about a athletically oriented school here, but my niece is a freshman. She's having a lot of fun with it. So hey, let's go out. I get to go out. I'm wearing my yellow shirt. Their colors are blue and gold. So I'm ready to go. It's gonna be fun.
Don't be that in-law that embarrasses the rest of the auditorium.
Well, I'm not an in-law. She's my niece. But
he meant uncle.
Uncle. Yeah.
Don't be that family member.
No, no.
They have to escort out.
No,
Okay.
no, I won't do that.
Yeah, I can't see you doing that either. All right, real good. Moving on in the case. Final thoughts from you, sir?
I can't believe Jeff left this one wide open for me. I get to mention that Dayton and Louisville played in volleyball to open Louisville's season last week with an exhibition match. Louisville won that one 4-1. We didn't get to talk about it. PK got the dreaded negative 1,000 hitting percentage. Just one attempt, and it was an error. So very unfortunate to see that. But good to see Louisville get their feet under them. Unfortunately, drop a set to Dayton, but Dayton's not a bad team, like we mentioned. And they're playing around with the lineup as an exhibition game. So excited to see volleyball back in action and to get their spring season underway next week, like we mentioned.
I did write about it last week, so it's not like I completely dropped it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We certainly hope that they'll be able to get things rolling with that and not have to go through the delays that a lot of the other sports are bouncing around with right now. Final thoughts out of me here. Just certainly I want everybody to have a great Valentine's Day weekend, like Daryl mentioned earlier. And if if it doesn't matter if it's your significant other, your mom, your dad, your coworker, anybody you want to, just kind of take the time and maybe get them a little something or say to them, hey, you know what? I dig you. Have a great year. Just let somebody know you care about them. Always a good thing to do on Valentine's Day. And certainly also, like Daryl, excited about the upcoming spring sports that are coming right around the bend here. The crack of the ball on the bat. Hearing Scott Teeter yell. Stuff like that. Spring sports. Wow. It is the light at the end of the tunnel. All right. Everybody have a great week of it. We'll see you next week here at 11 o'clock. Unless you know something we don't. Cardinal Couple Radio Hour. We appreciate y'all listening today.
Go Cards.